What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more ABBA. And we're back with the final of 6 bonus tunes included in the expanded folder for the 1981 album The Visitors, and that is I Am the City. To personify oneself as a geographical space, and specifically a geographical space defined by human aggregation, is an interesting concept. Ultimately, I'm not quite sure the point that would be made. I am legion, I am everyone, I am as much this city as anyone else. I suppose it could relate to, influence or control, that can you get by in the city? For me, I am the city. It could be that kind of thing. That feels like it could be a gangster movie. Nevertheless, not quite sure what to make of the title, but I have enjoyed hearing these extra tracks and thinking about the ways in which, one or two of them feel like they could slot in very nicely to the album The Visitors. A couple others very much enjoyed the sonics, but understand why on some level they maybe, were not part of the album. And obviously there's a couple that are, The Day Before You Came, which it comes out, or they performed it after the album. So either way, I'm enjoying hearing these extra tracks and the way that sonically, they're scattered around the album The Visitors, but again, not part of it. So shout out to Adam once again for being the champion of this deep dive, and ultimately a really cool person who I've talked to about a number of different types of music, and ultimately, there's more stuff coming from his collection, including some of the things that he's recommended. So once again, big shout out to Adam, big shout out to all the people who become part of this ABBA journey, and it has become quite a few of you. As I mentioned, it takes now a few days to go through the ABBA comments, like after I do an ABBA reaction, so if I don't immediately or even within like 48 hours interact with your comment, it's not because I'm ignoring it, it's not because, I'm not interested, it's just because between that, the emails, and all the other reactions and different things I'm doing on the channel, there's just so many, only so many hours in the day. So in any case, let's listen to it. This is ABBA, I Am the City, the final of 6 bonus tracks that were included in this larger or expanded folder for the 1981 album, The Visitors. Ooh, I love the synth bass. the totality, it felt like maybe it wasn't so much personifying oneself as the city, but like actually speaking, if one could, for a city. It's everything, right? It's the allure, the skyline, it's the, the museums and the fancy places, but it's also the people, it's also the melting pot, different kinds of people doing different things, and it's also the stresses that they have and the experiences. It's the aggregation of all that. Like that's the city. The city is all of this, for better or worse. So it felt like in some ways a more positive assessment. And again, I might not be reading that overall idea correctly, but it seemed like it was looking at it from some different angles, and the idea that cities, they have this allure, they have these places of interest, and they have lives and dreams that can play out and can be something special. But it's a mixed bag, and people come at it from different angles and have different experiences with it, and perhaps some of them are bearing the burdens of those stresses more regularly or more significantly than others. So it felt like a melting pot conceptually, but either way, I did enjoy the lyrics, and the way there were a couple lines, like I think it was like before the chorus would come in, but like near the end of the verses, where it was a very like powerful, like strident, or like forte kind of delivery. I really enjoyed those moments, and yeah, it had a very groovy synth bass, which in conjunction with the kick drum, it was giving me both like future new wave type sounds, but not entirely different than some of the disco sounds they've done. So it was sort of like sonically it felt transitional. It felt like, okay, this is not entirely different from some of the tracks that I've heard on the like couple albums before this in late 70s, but it also sounds like it's moving into a more space age new wave type of sound with some of the synth work. So really enjoyed that. A couple moments in particular where it built toward a measure change, and I remember there was one where it was doing that synth bass just kind of percolating, and then in the build up, the last bar before the measure, it sort of brought back the kick drum and a build, and then really dropped it in. I enjoyed that moment in particular. So again, big shout out to all the people who've been part of this. We're going to go through Voyage, and as I mentioned, I think there's a couple other tracks, miscellaneous from along the way, non-album tracks, but once we go through Voyage, I'll try to make sure that we get through anything we haven't done. Again, I have access to Anyata's and Frida's material. Big shout out to Adam once again. And indeed, people pointed out to me that there's some cool crossovers here and there, so ultimately looking forward to going through that. But one more big phase of the ABBA journey to go. Thank you for being part of it so far, and let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.